Hello, everyone, and welcome to This Week in Hospitality Marketing, show number 425. And yes, there's a little bit of a change of venue. Strangely, I'm wearing a comfortable shirt. We're coming to you from Orlando, Florida, beautiful resort called Margaritaville, Orlando. And to give you a sense of all the fun and festivities that are going on, I want to make sure that I point behind on my background here in the mirror is my balloon hat. It's actually about almost 4 foot tall. There's a whole longer part you don't see on this side, but I had a reflection of it because I'm sitting here going, wow, let's see, a tan shirt on a tan wall with a aura wind mirror. Better put something interesting and creative in the reflection of it, so you don't think anything's too strange, too much strangely about it. But it gives you a sense of the enjoyment that we've been having up here in Orlando. I've had the pleasure of being up here for a variety of reasons, and it is actually the inspiration of our show today. In all of the things that happen, this has been one of the first opportunities outside of the dialogue of the live show and the people that engage. And thank you so much, everyone, for emails and texts and so forth, and dialogue through the hdm.news/talkback audio. That gives us great feedback as to the content, and everyone's appreciating the dialogue we've had about budget creation, customized audiences, use of TA4, and so forth these past few shows we've been doing. But the inspiration of today's show is very much in tune with the discussions that are a result of the way we're doing things and the shift in how we're looking at things. And that comes up with our topic of inception versus conversion, the way GA4 is changing our marketing priorities. It is a constant, I wouldn't say struggle, it's a constant awareness that we get caught into ruts of how we do things, the consistency of doing something. It improves our efficiencies, but it also begins to blunten our perspective of alternative ways of doing or other ways of perceiving and looking at things. I've never really been condemned of being non-creative or doing too many things the same over and over, but I catch myself doing it quite regularly because I'm aware of it in the way that I approach projects. And a lot of times, I look at something, and we've had some really fun discussions, and again, some feedback from you all as well. Questions about how to solve certain issues. I've traveled many cities in which I've spoken at conferences and in front of people, and have challenged them that through the ingenuity of the intelligence in the room, that if they brought their most challenging upcoming reality issue related to revenue growth or issues of marketing in an open forum without having to disclose anything super confidential, obviously, that they couldn't get solved in one capacity. And if I couldn't solve it in the short time that I made that offer, that I would give more time, hours of time, which is what I do it for work, to continue on and try to create some direction and solution for them. And out of the cities, and dozens of cities, there are 33 in one category alone, when I made this challenge, no one has not been able to knock me off the hill on that, meaning that no matter what the challenge or what the problem or what the issue was, we didn't find some means of a solution for them in the 5, 10, 15 minutes even of having that as a topic. And I bring that same concept to our discussion today, approaching business challenges that we have for hospitality, marketing challenges, issues related to things going forward. Now, obviously, operational issues are a different concept. HR issues are a different concept, but the approachability of the projects remain the same. It's about identifying your goal and then figuring out from that goal what it is that you need to do to attain that goal. Now, a lot of times, people don't see it that way. They see it as a goal, that's fine. But what they do see is the relative aspects of what they can function at this particular moment, what's in front of them. They tend to approach more of it from the bottom of the mountain, looking up to the top of the mountain. That's their goal. I want to get up there. The issue is that when it comes to that, they approach it from a here now rather than a then there. And what do I mean by that? What we do is we approach going from A to B literally as linear. We say that we want to get to this goal. This is what we're looking for. And what do I mean? I'm not trying to be abstract by this. I refer to it very specifically as we have a challenge for revenue during certain time frames. Say, for instance, Christmas is not at the same pace that we were this time last year. Gosh knows in these past few years, and we've gone to great lengths to discuss all these variables. Our sense of normal marketing is not there. And for that reason, We have to constantly adapt as to what we're doing and how we're doing it. But we still do approach projects the same way. And the way that I'm bringing up our topic in this context is we tend to approach how we use our data the same way. We look at the fact that the data is to help us guide our way to what we need. For instance, marketing, in very particular, we brought this up in conversations these past few weeks as well. Give me coffee. Is we look at the data that we have and then use it towards the goal that we're wanting. And it goes as simple as saying that I have been very much about approaching marketing targeting from the idea of who is it that I'm wanting to speak to, personas, customer profiles, as to this is the person that I want to identify. And I'm still a huge fan of personas and profiles in the use of strategy and concept, but I've changed how I plan on using them. In the old way of analytics, we used to look at here's what I'm looking for, and then define what I want to track to see where they are from, what they're looking at, and how to get in communication with them in that process. And GA4 has really changed my concept of that to one of what is that is being done that is of what I have of value, meaning converting and staying and staying in our rooms or staying eating at our restaurants or whatever. And from that, who are these people and what way that I can get in front of them to want them to continue to do this. Now, it is a concept of Tale of Two Cities. You have the origin story of whether or not you identify who you're looking for and then pursue what they do to mimic what they like so that you can get more of those types of people. And then you have the other end, which is this is what I want them to do. How is it that I can identify that action and who's creating that action? Now, in the discussions I've had the pleasure of having these past few days and in discussions with you all from different emails and so forth, the concept of the inception versus conversion. I've asked many people as we've gone through these dialogues of this data, what data would you prefer to have? When you knew somebody actually bought something to know who those people were, or when they first found you, when they first discovered what your product was. And historically, I would say my most immediate answer is, well, I want to know all the people that converted. I want to know when that happened. And for that reason, then I could identify how to repeat that process for other people that may not have converted. That would be my first, almost right out of my mouth, that would be immediate conversion value to that. That's what I would have done. With GA4 and the ability to know that you are monitoring everything, you have now the ability to be more interested in the concept of inception. Not so much directly just the people that converted, but more about the people that engaged with you in general and when that did this happen. And it is a linear, in the sense of time, progress, in the sense of how early they found you, how early they were exposed to you, how early you were put into consideration for whatever they were interested in. That's where my paradigm has shifted. Because I was always pursuing those people that had already or were most likely to convert, and then ignoring anybody else that wasn't into that category. Mathematically, that is going for you heard the old adage that the 80-20 rule. 80% of the businesses out of 20% of the people that do it. And it's not a not bad rule. It's not anybody bound by that guideline for many, many years and so forth. But it's also not indicative of the 80% of the people that didn't do something. Now, we are constantly struggling with our marketing and how we perform in the sense of identifying the people that are coming to our hotels. And we've often talked at great lengths about the fact that each of us, even as an individual, are actually reflections of many types of traveler. In this instance, I traveled for business, but I'm now gearing up, as you can see by this, in the festivities of the flamingo balloon hat. That is changing into a different type of travel. It's more of a leisure travel, pleasure travel. I'm the same person, but my priorities have shifted, my mindsets have shifted, my interests have shifted, my modalities of travel and destinations and things to do has shifted literally in mid cycle of what I'm already doing. That variances of things is multiplied to every one of our guests that stay at our hotel. one minute they're a business traveler, the next minute they're a leisure traveler, the next minute they're a family traveler, next minute there's something else, a Smurf travel, because of their participation in Smurf business elsewhere, so forth. The complexity of knowing what that is means that we ignore most of the people that engage with us, but don't actually continue on to the conversion process. Excuse me, coffee is important. Um, think of it this way. If 100 people came to your website, and we've mentioned this before, if 100 people came to your website, you're looking at the fact that you find yourself highly successful. 2 or 3 of those people actually bought your product. That means 97 or 98 of those people did not. That doesn't mean they're any lesser in value from a different perspective. They're lesser in value from the perspective of actual conversion, but they're not lesser in value in the concept of what they might want to do with you at another time when you are not the direct consideration. Let's take it to a real example of this. I'm traveling to Orlando. I'm in Orlando now. I came for a purpose of business. And so my focus was where I was doing business at. So that immediately defined what I was going to be looking at under consideration. I came across some amazing other places that, oh, wow, that's really neat. That would be a lot of fun. Fun's not a part of this particular travel. Okay. But it's good to know that it's there. So I was one of those 100 people that didn't convert at a resort or another location that's in this area. I discovered it. Your marketing worked. Your content worked. All the things that we talk about worked, but it was not in the spectrum of consideration for me for this particular travel. But it's notched in my head as to, well, that, I didn't know that was there. I didn't know they had one of those there, or whatever the idea of it is. And so now in our world of inception versus conversion, I'm no longer paying attention to me because I didn't convert. I'm done and gone. So I've been discarded. I'm one of the 97 or 98 people that didn't do anything with me. But that's not true. Because if you look at the spectrum of value of engagement, that engagement and the cost of me engaging, okay, um, didn't translate at that moment. But there's a time consumption at this point. Your product is now in my mind. And so the next time that I travel to this area, that is not for the reason that is for business, but for pleasure, I'll remember that, oh, they have one of those there. Or I remember seeing that one hotel that was right next to something, da da da. Yeah, I couldn't go because of business at the time, but now that we're going back for fun, that's where I want to go. And that person can come back again. Well, that's the value of inception. That's the value of exposure to that. And then the good bad of how we have analytics now is that based on the duration of time from when I first saw the property to when I actually did something about it, I may not have been considered trackable in the sense of attribution of like, oh, well, that was because of an ad that we did 6 or 8 or 10 months ago. Or is it? The idea is that our analytics are getting constricted as to how long they can last. We know that iOS 17 has reduced it down to a 7-day cycle of outside abilities for third parties to be able to understand the process of engagement. We know that there is a percentage reduction from people who block ad servers or block analytics tracking, block permissions and guidelines that, all the legalities of confidential information. And we're a huge supporter of people owning their own information. We are adamant and ardent that it's not our information that we have the pleasure of using. So we are fragmenting how we can track people, but in other ways, we have to define the ability to re-engage people. That instance where I may have seen that resort, but at that trip that wasn't an applicable one, but then went back at another time when it was applicable. If from talking to me, where you were, while you still had access to me, because I had just touched your site or went into your site but didn't do anything with it, how you engage with me, okay, and how you create a means for me to communicate. For instance, I go and I look at the resort and realize it's not everything I want, but I like the resort. And you touch back and say, well, hey, so can we keep in touch with you? Maybe a CRM engagement to that. Maybe there is a modality of introducing me to your content. Like here's our social platform content that will keep me on the hook, so to speak, of being able to be aware that you're there and see what things you're doing and what are the offers and so forth. And I get put into your funnel, right? The other is maybe excellent content that allows me to stay engaged with you because you are very good about making sure that you share helpful information about your destination, a destination obviously that I was aware of, interest in uh, coming to. Excuse me. And so for that reason, you keep me engaged with it so that maybe down in the future, either I accelerate and improve my communication with you by saying, yeah, sure, I'll sign up with your newsletter, or sir, I'll take your emails, or, great, I'll follow you on social, or what have you. That lingering engagement value. So the idea of being asked anybody, and this is the perspective of this dialogue, is when I ask people which would they prefer, the data about a conversion, like when did they do it, what did they do it, where they do it from, what did they buy, so forth, which is usually such the fixation of how we handle data, to whether or not you would prefer that in comparison to the inception data, the data about when and if I engaged and what did I engage about, and did I create some residual engagement with them, and I wasn't one of the 2 or 3 people out of 100 that actually purchased your product, but I was one of the 97 or 98 that touched your product. Now, there's a spectrum even in the 97 and 98 people. The mistaking landing location, whoa, I didn't mean to hit that button, or no, this is not anything I'm interested in. So there's a high value proposition between just generalized traffic and engagement traffic. That is always the case. But there's a spectrum, a multicolored spectrum in the middle of all that as to how exactly the value of that engagement really was. Was it because they're following a piece of content that was shared by you, that you were in a Google Zero answer about an event in a particular market? You know, they may not have been interested in you in your resort at that time, or the fact that you were not under their consideration. But that ability to have that engagement, to know where you touch people, is much more valuable data now than it has ever been before. Why so? It's not that it was not valuable before, it was hard to use before. It was hard to quantify before, it's hard to even track before, almost impossible in many ways. We didn't have the capabilities unless you had lots of money to pay for like GA360 or something like that. Um, that you could even gather that much data. Now it's a default of what we do with GA4. We gather everything and define what we're interested in. We gather what people do, and that is more important than what the pre-qualifiers of what we think they are. Think again, we've had this discussion before, and this is the part that always shifts my mind to this, is that if I'm looking for people to engage with a piece of content that I created for engagement, destination information, then I am actively pinging out anybody that goes from unidentified, unknown what they want to do, to potentially interested in what I do. It doesn't mean that they immediately purchase with me. I would love to say that it does, but it doesn't. What it does mean is that I've gone from knowing nothing to knowing critically something. And that critical something makes it different to talk to those people than it does to everybody else I know nothing about. That's why the inception idea of data, the idea that whoever engages with your type of content, regardless of their conversion value, have value for lots of reasons. If anything, even if there's no conversion from a mass of those people, and there isn't, of their inception or their engagement with you, is it does give you a perspective on whether or not your content is good, whether or not your destination buys interest, because all of that information that people that have touched with you gives you a sense, okay, of direction, of intent. It gives you a ability to perceive. It's like having a flashlight in a dark room. In a completely dark room, you have no bearing. You have no sense of where the exit is, where the stool is that you're going to stub your foot on, or whatever like that. A flashlight gives you some guidance. It doesn't mean you know where everything else is in the room, but you do know at least some aspect of it to be able to guide yourself through a process. So that inception of data, now that it's able to be collected, is infinitely more valuable than just the conversion data that we base most, if not all, of our strategic decisions on. I'm not uh, downplaying the value of conversion data in the sense that it's no longer useful. On the contrary, you see the little thing out there. Um, I'm saying that it's not the only piece of data. Just like we talk about ROI, ROI is not in itself a bad number. You always want a measuring stick of how much it's costing versus what you're getting, but it's not the only metric that should be used. It's not the only filter that should be defined. And that goes for what we're talking here on data. The idea of expanding your usable value of data. If you ever walked into a C-level meeting, or any executive meeting for that matter, and you weren't talking about conversions and revenues and dollars gained and so forth, and you start talking about what they probably ping is feely good stuff, of engagements and content relevance and information from just people that are touching your website, people will be frustrated with you because what you're talking about isn't dollars and cents. The idea is you're not doing vanity metrics. I don't think we're purporting vanity metrics at this point, but you are talking about the value proposition of the knowledge you've gotten from the inceptive engagement of your data, the knowledge of what people have done when they discovered you. Well, these people didn't convert, but they were very fascinated with our event cycles for October. That raises a question. With all good things, anything that can raise a question or define where you need an answer is helpful. But why would that be the case? More specifically, why would these people geographically from this area be interested so specifically in this event? And that gives you a flashlight, a direction, a compass, a star to follow, that allows you to say, well, let's break this down. Is there something we're missing? Because a lot of what we do with personas and customer identifications and customer profiles and everything else is smart guessing. Yes, we use data. Yes, we refer to the validation of the data as to, well, I think these types of people demographically, behaviorally, geographically, what have you, are coming into play, and we validate that with the data we have about them. Well, Google and everybody, Google in particular, mostly, obviously, has really downplayed by their heavily sampling because of privacy concerns that they're only giving you a fraction of that information about demography and geography and behavioral and personas because they don't want you to fixate on. Remember when they took away our keywords and we were just dealing with attribution models? They're doing the same with our aspects of identifying all of the persona information that we would like about our users. They heavily short sample it to almost being ineffective. They're just doing it kind of like little markers. The real fascination of the data that they're tracking, everything that they're tracking, is the understanding of the engagement value of it. The idea that you're not so much worried about analytics, trying to figure out sources and trends and so forth, as you have data about audiences. One of my team members I highly respect are my expert for this. He says GA4 is a terrible analytics platform. It is an amazing audience building platform. And that's where this value comes in, is we're now able to see in the complexity of engagement, because everything's being tracked, the actions that people are doing. It is not as important in the world of the data we have to try to second guess the the uniqueness of those data, like demographies and geographies and so forth, and behaviorals and so forth, because it's a guessing game. It's not accurate. If, however, you want people to be on this certain page, because this certain page is relevant to things that you're trying to derive business from, then anybody that is engaged with that page or has reason to have touched that page becomes relevant. That inception data, not just who converted on that page, but whoever touched that page, creates a guidepost of who other people might be that you would want to get to come to that page as well, in the hopes that they too also would convert. Okay, that's the difference between that and defining which persona I am traveling at. Am I business persona today, and then tomorrow I'm transient persona? Because that's really kind of what we're looking at as a guessing game. And every time we do that means we shotgun out data, we dilute it with multiplicities so that we hope that some one of these might be that version of what I'm looking for that day. So for instance, going to my older example, where I found a resort that I didn't stay at because of my purpose of travel. This time, that was not the better choice, but it did spark my interest that when I come back here for a different reason, that would be my first choice. Okay, that having that amount of data and that connectivity means that I would be in that cycle of consideration for other things that I would have. Not I'd have to rediscover the hotel. Not that I'd have to rediscover what I was engaged with the hotel, but I know I've shifted gears in travel. So the fact that I touched that page means I'm in that consideration. It's a guidepost for that resort that I didn't convert through. I'm still a valuable commodity to them at some point, just not this time for conversion. Okay, so I'm in that collective audience, as it were, that signal that I was interested in that page. Instead of that resort offering me a newsletter that has all of the stuff that they do, hoping that one of them is relevant, they now can tailor their communication with me, should I offer them the fact that I'd be liking that newsletter or that communication, to what I touched them with. It's very directive. It's very much about, you looked at this stuff. By the way, here's more of that stuff, and here's other options that might be of consideration for that stuff. So it's a hard concept to acid bath down. I'm going to have more specific examples and dialogue about this as the coming weeks go on, because this is a change in way that you do data. It's a change in way that you handle data. It's a change in way that you measure your success ratios. Measurement of revenue generation doesn't go away. We're not replacing this with soft cotton candy ideas. On the contrary, we're getting exceptionally good at creating revenue, because the more we can lend ourselves to understanding the engagement the consumer is giving us by how they engage with us, the better we can tune what we have to those people most calibrated to wanting to know what we have, to buy what we have. You know, the fact that, invert what I just said about business travel, say I'm a transient travel, I find an amazing business location, and I know I have to come back here for business, and I'm going to earmark that and say, that was a very cool resort I found for another reason, or a hotel I found for another reason. When I have to come back here for something only I know I have to eventually come back for, that might be one of my first considerations to look to. We don't give ourselves enough time arc, and justifiably so with our technologies now, as we get reduced for, the ability to track, we may not always know that continuity. So the sooner we can get people engaged more directly with us, the more we can keep that dialogue with them, and actually know that that 6 months ago I looked at this resort, or their resort, was not the right time then, but now Loren the business traveler is now Loren the transient traveler, and Loren the transient traveler now finds great interest in that resort. That's the thing that makes it different as to how we look at inception versus conversion as a way of looking at our marketing priorities. So, with that being said, I am here for a fun for purpose as well. You can tell by the uh, flamingo hat that we're out to go have some more fun today. So, I appreciate everyone's time and focus on this discussion. I know it kind of bounced between the bumpers on some of the things, and we'll get more clarity in this process as time goes on. But for those that follow my strange way of thinking, thank you so much. And apparently from emails and so forth, there's a good, decent amount that do. And thank you very much for those of us watching our show today on Roku TV, Google TV, Amazon TV, Apple TV, Samsung TV, LG TV. Thank you for always seeing my happy smiley face, albeit, less, more going the casual and swag than usual. It's still there, and the flamingo in the corner. Um, Thank you for that. If you're watching us on our simulcasting on Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, or YouTube, Twitter being X, still never get past that name. Then thank you so much for that. We're on multiple channels on YouTube, multiple pages on Facebook, only one on LinkedIn, which is my profile, Loren and Gray. I take any and all emails related to content, feedback, and suggestions, Loren at hospitalitydigitalmarketing.com. Also, too, you can give us audio feedback. We ask a question every week that you can answer, or just expound on whatever you find of interest at hdm.news/talkback. That's an audio response. And of course, we have our audio podcast that we do after this, that we do a recap of this show briefly, but we really get into techniques and tools specifically. And we are going to be talking about the types of identifications and creations of um, signals and the usabilities of what we just discussed on the live show. We try to keep both shows symbiotic. Those run on our podcast, which you can get on, 39 platforms. We're in actually 209 countries with the TV station. And then we also have a radio station, which you can watch, hospitalityradio.com. You can listen to hospitalityradio.com. We're actually broadcasting on 26 broadcast networks globally. Um, gosh, we actually bring in other shows that we have. We have a revenue management podcast, revenue management hour. We have a meta search hour. We have a sales hour. We have a reputation management hour, marketing, which is what ours covers. So we are constantly shifting and adding different content into that. That's 24/7 radio station. You can catch all of the reruns of this live show, plus our podcast, at our Forever I Love Lucy rerun platform at hospitalitychannel.tv. There you can search by content, guest speaker, and what have you, data broadcast. They're all there. If you want to get our channel on your TV, just go look for the Hospitality Channel. It is a channel that's available on all the platforms I just mentioned. The live show is always on the free side of that. There's a paid gateway for more content. If you're a hospitality marketing professional, you can join us in our peer group at hospitalitymarketing.club. And if you want to just go to our app, you can look for Hospitality Channel on your Apple iOS or Android Play. and Google Play, sorry. And you also can, for the radio station, let's see, I'm trying to make sure we hit all of them. Just if you want to go to a website and watch the TV channel, you can go to talktravel.tv. We're pretty much, and if you use your game station or your PS5 or your Xbox or something, you watch us on Twitch as well. We always simulcast on that. So there, we're everywhere we could possibly try to be on a regular, consistent basis to provide content for hospitality professionals. So we hope that was being helpful in the dialogue. Thank you all for your time. And my name is Loren, and I look forward to talking to you all next week.